Happy Sat Stacking Saturday. Welcome everyone to No One Daily Bitcoin Pod. In today's show, we break down the latest Bitcoin technical analysis and everything you need to know in the market, including Arizona governor vetoes the bill to make Bitcoin part of the state reserves. Damn you, Cathie Hobbs. Unacceptable. We'll also be discussing Vitalik wants to make Ethereum as simple as Bitcoin in 5 years. Max responded, Ethereum died. It just hasn't been buried yet. In fact, it was a stillborn. What an incredible waste of time and energy. We'll also be discussing, speaking of the high priest, Max Kaiser, thinks Bitcoin will stop Israel displacing Palestinians. That's right. Bitcoin perpetuates peace and love. Fiat currency, can't say the same. We'll also be discussing Bitcoin bros at the club may stop the U.S. government from buying the Bitcoin, according to Arthur Hayes. Just blaze. We'll also be discussing Bitcoin soaring 2,426% to literally 2.4 million, according to the ARK Invest founder, Cathie Wood. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market today. All this plus so much more here on Sat Stacking Saturday in today's stream. If you're new to the channel, very important, smash the likes. Go ahead, subscribe, then ring the bell, turn on all notifications to receive daily premium crypto newsletters every single day, 7 days a week, just like this. Today is spot episode 1981. I'm your host, JV. It's May 3rd, 2025. Markets maintaining above 96,300 at the time of the live stream, pulling up. Coin 360, Bitcoin down 0.5% on the day. Ether in the red, XRP in the red, most of the market in the red, a handful in the green. Checking out coinmarketcap.com. Crypto market cap collectively is at a flat 3 trillion even McGeeven. And the Bitcoin market cap is just shy of the 2 trillion, currently 1.913 trillion. Virtually a trillion less than the total market. And we have a dominance on the rise for Bitcoin, now at 63.9%. Ether dominance at 7.4%. Checking out top 100 crypto gainers past 24 hours. We got Layer up 6.5%, followed by DEXE up a modest 6%, and Flare up 4% as the majority of the market's currently correcting and in the red. And checking out the crypto bubbles. Let's get a look visually for the day. Unfortunately, 90% of the market in the red, including Trump coin down 11.4% just on the day. And zooming out for the weekly, Trump down 25%, and top gainers, Virtual and Layer, but again, most of the market in the red. And zooming out a little further for the monthly, the silver lining here, Trump is up 26% for the past 30 days, and so is the bulk of the alt market, with Virtual leading the pack up 215%. And checking out the Crypto Greed and Fear Index. Today we're in greed, 65. Yesterday, 67. Last week, 65. And last month, 25. And extreme fear. And scoping out the infamous time chain calendar. We're on block number 895,069. You can currently exchange one fiat monopoly dollar for 1,039 sats. You know what that means, especially on a Sat Stacking Saturday. Pick up the sats, put down the gats, and pick up some Bitcoin caps from my man Sergio over at BitcoinCaps.net. Get yourself a custom CNA cap. We have the Biddy embroidery as well as the CNA family logo embroidery coming from your boy Sergio over at BitcoinCaps.net. And we have them in black, white, and of course you can get the President B cap, the Trumponomics, all the legendary caps from my man. And shout out Nippinator, former chairman of the SEC. But anyways, fam, now for our astrology for the baddies. We'll do a little bit of TA and pull up some of the live charts. Headline here reads, stars are aligned for Bitcoin to rally to 100,000. In fact, we're like 3,500 away. But future traders are exercising caution. That's right. Bitcoin broke out in a tight trading range between 93 and 95.6 May 1st, following 6 days of limited movement. Despite reaching the highest price in 10 weeks of just shy of 98, sentiment remains neutral according to the Bitcoin derivative indicators. The price action has occurred alongside significant net inflows into the US spot ETFs. Some of the disappointments amongst traders can be attributed to the ongoing global tariff dispute, which is beginning to affect macroeconomic data. Bitcoin traders are concerned that despite the growing interest from the institutional investors. Fears of an economic recession could limit the price performance. This concern reduces the likelihood of Bitcoin reaching 100,000, or I should say 110,000 or higher, which is ultimately price discovery, as the current all-time high, which was achieved Jan 20th on Inauguration Day for Trump, was, is the current top. But anyways, the annual premium for the Bitcoin 2-month futures has remained between 6-7% over the past week, staying within the neutral range of 5 to 10% compared to January when the Bitcoin was trading near 95, and the futures premium was above 10%. Trader sentiment has weakened. The data suggests there is less optimism in the market, or at least less conviction and further price gains towards 100,000 and above. Let me know when you feel we'll likely recapture that six-figure mark at 100K. I think it'll most likely be this week. And it may be the point of no return, where once we cross above that, we may never dip sub 100,000 ever again as we continue to bullish momentum. But you guys let me know your thoughts. There's also the possibility that the 3.6 billion in net inflows into the spot ETFs over the past 2 weeks are being driven by delta neutral strategies. In this scenario, the flows reflect Bitcoin hodlers moving to listed products or using derivatives for hedging, and if so, the direct impact on price would be limited, which is consistent with Bitcoin's modest 5% gain during this period. So to determine whether professional traders are comfortable with Bitcoin around 97.5, it's helpful to examine the Bitcoin options market. And currently, the Bitcoin options 25% delta skew metric is currently near its lowest level since February 15th, indicating the whales and the market makers are assigning the higher odds to further the upside from here. This marks a sharp reversal from 3 weeks ago when the put options traded at a premium. So overall, Bitcoin derivatives indicate moderate optimism. Traders generally expect further price gains, but the bulls are refraining from using leverage. Some might argue that this creates the ideal conditions for a surprise rally, especially since the retest of 74.5 on April 9th did not significantly affect Bitcoin derivatives, and that's currently the local bottom, and it wasn't too long ago, literally 3 weeks ago. So we have already risen literally 2 God candles, 20,000 since hitting that bottom, and we're on the cusp of reclaiming 100 Gs. But you guys let me know when you feel the pretty little bitty is likely to recapture that price target, and I'll read your comments out loud. And also, let's pull up some of the live charts real quick and take a quick glimpse. Let's start with the 1 hour and work our way backwards. So as you can see here, this is live and in the flesh via TradingView, via Coinbase. And as you can see on the hourly chart, big green candle just recently printed, which is nice, but no particular targets in play. Zooming out from there, we take a quick look at a 4 hour. The 4 hour chart also has a green candle, which is nice, and currently stuck at 96.3. Looking to make a big decisive move here. I think by the end of the weekend, hopefully by Monday, we're heading right back where we left off. But anyways, zooming out a little further, we take a look at a daily. Also, you can see the past couple of days were green candle closes, and today thus far, we're forming a red. Also, there's a bull scenario in the red, bullish target sitting just shy of 112,000. And again, price discovery is 109.3, and price discovery is when things get exciting because Bitcoin has no top, as fiat has no bottom. There's no telling how high we can climb for the next leg up. I'm projecting somewhere in the 120 to 130 range, which leads us into the weekly chart. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 green consecutive weekly candles. Not too shabby. Tomorrow we'll make it official. As you can see, the last print is this ongoing week, which will close officially tomorrow. So if things maintain where they're at, that'll be an entire month of consecutive weekly candle closes. And you can see also the cup and handle target sitting at 124,000, very bullish. And again, I think that's the most probable next leg up once we recapture price discovery. And looking at the monthly, also bullishness here as the month of April was in the green, nice candle close, and thus far forming in the green for the new month of May, but May is just kicking off. And there you have it, yo. But you guys let me know your thoughts. Somebody should have a sit down with Cathie Hobbs and educate her. Well, here's the thing. She's probably not stupid. She just has handlers who are anti-Bitcoin. Can I just call it how I see things? I could be completely wrong, but using my intuition, knowing what I know in the world, none of these people who are governors or presidents or kings or queens are that stupid. She clearly knows what it does, and she probably has handlers who perceive Bitcoin as undermining the dollar or undermining the central bank lizard folk cartels, and they tell her what to do. She has no real power. The president doesn't even have real power. They're told what to do. Then there's like 50 plus levels that are top secret above people in presidential positions. So do you think the governor has any real say? It depends upon her handlers. Her handlers don't like Bitcoin, clearly. So she's decided not to like it either, to save face. Anyways, that's my 2 Satoshis. Let me know your thoughts, which, speaking of Cathie Hobbs, that's our next story of the day. So let's break this baby down, shall we? Here we have it. So yeah, as you can see here, Arizona governor vetoes the bill to make Bitcoin part of the state reserves. That's Governor Cathie Hobbs. So this is very unfortunate. Arizona Governor Cathie Hobbs vetoed the bill that would have allowed the state to hold Bitcoin as part of the official reserves, effectively ending efforts to make Arizona the first U.S. state to adopt such a policy. The Digital Asset Strategic Bill would have permitted Arizona to invest these funds into Bitcoin and create a reserve managed by state officials. It was formally struck down on Friday, according to the update on the Arizona State Legislature's website. Quoting it here, today I vetoed Senate Bill 1025. The Arizona State Retirement System is one of the strongest in the nation because it makes sound and informed investments. So yeah, she's just pretending to be stupid, in my opinion, and clearly she just recognizes Bitcoin as a potential threat. Her handlers are like, no, you're not allowed to sign that, and she don't have permission to sign the bill. That's how I perceive things. But yeah, anyways, Arizona's retirement fund are not to be the place for the state to try untested investments like virtual currency. First and foremost, Bitcoin is not a virtual currency. You maybe call it a digital currency or digital gold, but I don't like that term. That seems to be FUD, in my opinion. So it just goes to show you she's just acting stupid. Like, we would never invest in an untested investment. But is she really stupid, or is she just compromised, pretending to play the stupid card like all other politicians? That's my question for the Biddy fam. Let me know in the comments. On April 28th, the bill passed a final vote in the state house when 31 members of the Arizona House voted in favor of the bill, with 25 opposing. Hobbs had previously stated she would veto any legislation not tied to a bipartisan agreement on disability funding. I mean, I'm going to assume she is a Democrat, but I don't even know. I'm just assuming. Let me know in the chat. A companion bill, SB 1373, would authorize the state treasurer to and I say that because all Democrats are virtually against Bitcoin in some sense. Yeah, I mean, the entire Biden administration was against Bitcoin. The entire Obama administration was against Bitcoin, hence why we had the war on crypto. They were against all of it. So I'm just assuming there, but let me know. Arizona joined several other states where similar efforts have failed. In recent months, similar proposals in Oklahoma, Montana, South Dakota, and Wyoming have stalled or been withdrawn. In contrast, North Carolina's House passed the Digital Asset Investment Act April 30th, allowing the state treasurer to invest up to 5% of certain funds in approved crypto. And I believe the only approved crypto would have been Bitcoin because it must be a staggering market cap, something like whatever it is, $1 trillion or something like that. And the state level efforts to create Bitcoin reserves come amid a push from the U.S. President Trumpster and Republican lawmakers to do the same at the federal government. Trump signed the executive order, as you know, back in March with a proposal for the strategic Bitcoin reserve as well as the digital asset stockpile. And if you don't know, now you know. So yeah, Cathie Hobbs, bad look. Shame. She must think all the people that got the bill on her desk don't know what they are doing. I doubt it. I think she's just compromised. I mean, it's the most logical explanation. No faith in her subordinates. Shortcoin says she Googled the name and it says Democrat. So can someone confirm? Is she a Dem or a Republican? Or is she a wolf in sheep's clothing? There's no telling with these governors. She's an old bag, says Josh. Couldn't agree more. Yes, Democrat, fake election versus Kerry. So my instincts were right. I've never looked that up before. I was just guessing. And it seems my instincts are on point. She is a Dem. Interesting. But next story of the day, fam. Now we discussed trader Cathie ultimately sabotaging the state of Arizona. Now we'll discuss Ethereum. And this is an interesting headline. Vitalik wants to make Ethereum as simple as Bitcoin in 5 years. You cannot make this shit up. Guess what? Once Ethereum was the same protocol in the sense it used to be proof of work, and then they changed it to proof of stake. This was back in 2022. Ever since they made that retarded move, it's been downhill for Ethereum. Ethereum is still down almost 50% from its all-time high, meaning in 2021, I think it was in November, it achieved maybe 4,500. It's struggling to maintain 1,700 right now. So not a good look. But I also want to read you Max Kaiser's response, which is hilarious. Ethereum died. It just hasn't been buried yet. In fact, it was a stillborn. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a stillborn is when the child is born unalived, which is very sad, by the way. What an incredible waste of time and energy. And this was off the back of Vitalik's own tweet. One of the best things about Bitcoin is how simple it is. Duh. This simplicity has lots of benefits. Duh. Let's bring those benefits to Ethereum. Are you shitting me, bro? A little too late. But anyways, let's discuss this interesting little post. So yeah, this post will describe how Ethereum 5 years from now can become close as simple to Bitcoin. And this is according to Vitalik, arguing that simplicity is key to Ethereum's resilience and long-term scalability. Well, I'll tell you straight up, Ethereum is one of the most difficult to understand when it comes to the tokenomics and the max supply. That's why nobody can explain it. And that's why there's an infinity sign to represent the total tokenomics. It is extremely complex. And with all the updates they have rolled out and with all the changes and rolling back the blockchain, how can anyone in their right mind have any trust or respect for Ethereum? The only one still bullish on it is the Trump family because of their interest, I believe, in their decentralized platform, WLFI. But I digress. I don't really know anybody who's like, wow, Ethereum's amazing. Like, no one. Like, even the biggest shillers who were shilling Ethereum previous cycles, like the Raoul Pals, etc., I don't even hear them talking about it no more. So it just goes to show you. But anyways, while recent upgrades like the proof of stake and zero knowledge succinct, non-interactive argument of the knowledge, and like I said, even the upgrade names, they all have to rhyme. Nothing makes sense. It's beyond my comprehension. And I'm not the smart. I don't have the highest IQ, but I'm not retarded. And if I don't understand anything, like when these updates roll out, just imagine the average pleb. They'd be as confused as what, right? Quoting them here. Historically, Ethereum has often not done this, sometimes because of my own decisions, and this has contributed to much of our excessive development expenditure, all kinds of security risks, and insularity of R&D culture, often in pursuit of benefits that have proven illusory. So he is admitting straight up he's done nothing but doom his own project. So respect. I didn't expect to read that. One key area of focus is Ethereum's consensus layer. Central to this effort is the proposed 3-slot finality model, which eliminates complex components like epochs. Like, does anyone even know what this means? Like, I'm not going to pretend. Sync committees and validator shuffling. I don't know, none of that means. The reduced number of active validators at a time means that it becomes safer to use simpler implementations of the fork choice rule. Are you even familiar with the fork choice rule? I'm not. Others proposed improvements include allowing for more straightforward fork choice rules. Well, obviously a fork is ultimately forking the network. And adopting scalable, transparent argument of knowledge, Stark-based aggregation protocols. You're speaking a different language, brother. On the execution layer, Buterin proposed a shift from the Ethereum virtual machine to a simpler ZK-friendly virtual machine like the RISC-V. It's like you're speaking Arabic. This move could offer 100x performance improvements for zero-knowledge proofs and significantly simplify the protocol. I'll see it when I believe it. You know what I mean? When I see it. RISC-V is an open source instruction set architecture used in designing computer processors. It follows a minimalist design philosophy, using a small set of simple instructions for higher efficiency and easier implementation to preserve backward capability. Buterin suggests running legacy EVM contracts on-chain via a RISC-V interpreter while supporting both the VMs concurrently during the transitional phase. Like, what in the world is he smoking is my question. I want some of it. Buterin also advocated for protocol-wide standardization, suggesting adopting a single erasure coding method, serialization format, and a tree structure to reduce redundant complexity and streamline the Ethereum tooling and the infrastructure. Quoting him here, simplicity is in many ways similar to decentralization. I disagree. Simplicity is not decentralization, clearly. He suggested Ethereum adopt a max line of code target, similar to what TinyGrad does, keeping consensus critical logic as lean and auditable. Again, I'm not even going to read any more of this. Let's just note there's been a plethora of significant changes over the past few years, and no one really even understands any of this unless you're a developer or something. Like, I don't understand or comprehend any of it. I have no trust of anything coming out of that guy's mouth. I don't understand the language. He's practically speaking a different language at this point. But you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll read them out loud. Bitcoin, boom, shakalaka, bada boom, bada Bitcoin. Next story of the day, the latest from the high priest, Max Keiser. This is actually a good headline. Max Keiser thinks the Bitcoin will stop Israel displacing the Palestinians. Can I get an amen? That's right, Bitcoin Maxi himself, Max Keiser, claims Bitcoin can change the minds of Israeli settlers and orange pill them into stopping a campaign of displacing Palestinian citizens. Keiser's far-fetched solution is in response to a segment of Louis Therox's new documentary on Israeli settlers that's currently doing the rounds on X. In the clip, they describe the actions of Daniela Wise, the leader of a sanctioned Israeli settler group, as sociopathic, and claims doesn't consider the lives of other people and other children in her settlement campaign. Wise says, however, this is normal. Kaiser's thoughts on the interview. Bitcoin fixes this. How? Bitcoin fundamentally changes on the biological, psychological, philosophical level, what the definition of property is. That's right, Bitcoin provides individual property rights for 8 billion of us. This woman is killing or willing to kill her neighbors for a scrap a scrap of land. Her mind and soul are broken. And then he goes on, let's open the actual tweet. And again, this is a direct quote from Max Keiser. Her mind and soul are broken. If she truly understood Bitcoin, she would understand that everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. She would see for the first time that she is a murderer and a genocidal maniac, and her actions would sicken her. We must orange pill these folks to save this ancient region. So we need Bitcoin, especially over there, right? Because there's an ongoing war that just seems to never end. The documentary is a follow-up to a similar film he made 14 years ago. He's seen interviewing religious nationalist Israelis who have settled in the Israeli-occupied West Bank in an effort to see what they're doing in response to the Hamas attacks. In a documentary, Weiss outright says she wants to colonize Gaza, and that when describing her intentions as a settler, she says, we do for the government what they cannot do for themselves. Interesting. Keiser claims Bitcoin redefines property on a biological, molecule level, psychological, and philosophical level. That's a fact. And that if Wise truly understood Bitcoin, she'd realize everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. Another fact, just a matter of time. He added she would see for the first time that she is a murderer and a genocidal maniac, and that her actions would sicken her. And I don't know her personally. I didn't read much of what she had to say, but I respect Max. And anyone who is calling for war or violence, I would absolutely agree that that's the definition of like murder and things of that nature. So anyone supporting war, violence, fiat money printing, which perpetuates war and violence, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Keiser's Bitcoin idea won't stop settlers from Israel. Somehow Keiser thinks orange pill and settlers trying to illegally expand to the region of Israel will resolve a conflict that's been going on since the late 19th century, despite the efforts of peace summit, negotiators, international pressure, and diplomatic bodies to stop it. Well, maybe it's because Max understands how the world is run and who is actually running the world, the organizations behind the evil, and he understands what the average person doesn't. Hence, we need the orange pill. Kaiser is El Salvador's Bitcoin advisor, working hand in hand with Bukele. And they work with the state-owned Russian news outlet, RT, hence the Kaiser report, responsible for orange pilling millions of Bitcoiners. And obviously no stranger to outlandish statements. In 2023, he claimed that cryptos such as Ether, Binance Coin, and XRP were created by financial terrorists. That's a fact. I mean, it is what it is. But the article says he ignores the incredibly complex requirements to establish any form of peace and believes in his own pursuit of promoting Bitcoin that the crypto was the answer all along. Well, I believe Max may be a time traveler, and I think he is right. I think Bitcoin has been the answer all along, and it's just a matter before the people accept it. And at that time, Bitcoin may be 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million a coin, 200 trillion market cap, 400 million market cap. There ain't no telling. With Janet Yellen, Bitcoin has no top. Fiat has no bottom. This headline here reads, Bitcoin bros at the club may stop the U.S. government from buying the Biddy. And this, according to Arthur Hayes' Blaze. That's right. He says the U.S. is unlikely to add more Bitcoin to its reserves beyond what is already seized, due to the country's high debt levels and the stereotype behind the Bitcoin bros. I'm not really into the whole strategic reserve situation, he said. The United States is a deficit country. The only way we can do the strategic reserve is not to sell the Biddy. They took from the people. Fine. That's 200,000 Bitcoin. Let's not forget 100,000 of that 200,000 belongs to Bitfinex, leaving the U.S. government with probably less than 100,000 of the Biddy, and which has never even been audited, by the way. Hayes said it's hard to imagine any properly elected politician openly announcing the government plans to print money to buy Bitcoin, especially when the popular narrative is a bunch of Bitcoin bros going to the club. Is that really what you want people to think about your policy, he said. On March 6th, President Trump signed the executive order creating the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve and the digital asset stockpile for the United States. The U.S. holds 198,000 of the Biddy, worth $18 billion. But like I said, roughly 100,000 belongs to Bitfinex, so it's really not all theirs. However, many crypto industry leaders believe that the U.S. government, if they start to buy the Bitcoin, it can set off an aggressive domino effect. That's right. Sergey, co-founder of aggregator 1inch, said, Longitude event in Dubai, he shared that if the U.S. were to start buying the Biddy for the strategic reserve, even the smaller countries may soon struggle to acquire the crypto. He added, I'm pretty sure we'll soon see countries battling over who owns more Bitcoin. The U.S. will start. There's only enough Bitcoin to go around for one Bitcoin superpower. Will it be the U.S.? Will it be China? Will it be Russia? You guys let me know. Hayes remains confident that the Bitcoin cycle leading into the altcoin season will follow the same pattern as it did all the previous halvings, despite differing views from other analysts. Quoting him here, I personally think the Biddy dominance is going back to where it was before the 2021 alt season, which is about 70%. Pretty low Biddy going up forever lower. He also says he isn't convinced the pattern will change. Then the people just start rotating. It's back at all-time highs. The bulls are back. The bull market's back. The altcoin should outperform. Should is a key word there, he said. It depends on what you buy. Well, clearly. Bitcoin dominance, which we know is the ratio of the market cap, is up. It's been on the climb, and will it recapture 70% for this cycle? You guys let me know your thoughts. Now for our featured story of the day. Bitcoin can soar 2,426% over the next 5 years, according to ARK Invest, is Cathie Wood. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, and if her name was Cathie Wood? And the wood was actually the Bitcoin. Let me know in the chat. But yeah, let's break this down. As you know, she recently upped her bullish target when it comes to Bitcoin price forecast. The one investor who has my attention right now is the one and only Cathie Wood, ARK Invest extraordinaire. She is now predicting the preload Biddy hitting 2.4 million per coin within the next 5 years. Let that one sink in. That's an eye-popping prediction, especially given the Bitcoin recently struggling to regain 100,000, which it has achieved, it seems, 1 billion times already since first capturing it. Bitcoin on today's prices, a 2.4 million future price tag, assumes Bitcoin soaring literally 2,426% over the next 5 years. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Now, for several years, Cathie Wood of ARK Invest has been using a building block valuation model for the Biddy. Simply stated, she looks at 6 key areas where Bitcoin is showing signs of growth and then attempts to forecast how these areas are growing to perform over the next 5 years. She then sums up the value of each of these key areas to arrive at a total valuation for Bitcoin. And right now, the key driver for the Bitcoin price growth involves the spot Bitcoin ETFs. That's because large institutional investors, you got the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity, ARC21, now 21, MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy, and the list goes on, are continuing to pour money into Bitcoin via these ETFs. If investors decide to ratchet up the percentage of their portfolios allocated to the pre-low biddy, that should help send the price of the Bitcoin soaring. Now, in the updated $2.4 million forecast, Cathie Wood thinks the Bitcoin would account for 6.5% of the investment portfolios by 2030, which is still a very modest assumption, in my opinion. That's an aggressive target because right now the suggested allocation for the Bitcoin is just 2%. I mean, it's perspective. And many risk-averse investors may be comfortable with only 1%. Imagine being an investor and only having a 1% allocation to Bitcoin. That's the definition of retarded. But it's certainly within the realm of possibility. I'm going to say that again. Now, I mean, something Katie Hobbs you would expect to do, but she vetoed the bill altogether. Not even a 1% allocation, Katie. Come on now. Now, in ARK Invest's Big Ideas 2025 report that was published in January, Cathie Wood arrived at a $1.5 million price tag for the biddy. If you compare the numbers used in the report with the numbers used in the updated prediction of the $2.4 million, not much has changed. For example, ARK Invest is still using the 6.5% allocation figure for the institutional investors. Now, on the other side of that, what if some of these institutions like BlackRock said, fuck it, 6.5, what are we, retarded? Let's just do 50%. It's the apex predator after all. You run the math. Now, what has changed, however, is Cathie Wood's calculation of the Bitcoin coin supply. Based on her estimates, as much as 40% of the Bitcoin supply is now vaulted, which means it has been taken off to crypto exchanges and put into the private blockchain wallets for the safe long-term storage. It also refers to Bitcoin that has been lost or has simply disappeared from circulation. So this missing 40% could have profound impact on the supply and the demand. And as we know from Economics 101, increased demand from an asset amid declining supply should send the price of the asset soaring higher. Bitcoin, famed for its inherent scarcity, as we know, can only ever be 21 million, appears to be becoming more scarce. No, it is becoming more scarce over time. ARK Invest's updated valuation model uses an experimented new metric called the liveliness, which refers to how much of the outstanding Bitcoin supply can be traded on a daily basis. When this liveliness metric is used as part of the valuation model, it results in much higher price forecasts for the biddy. You can check the math for yourself. It's all publicly available on the official ARK Invest website. Now, you might have noticed that I have not used the word tariff until now, referring to the author of the article. As soon as I heard about ARK investing or their new 2.4 million target, I immediately assumed it involved tariffs and global trade policy, but this doesn't appear to be the case. That is not priced in whatsoever on the forecast. The updated forecast was based primarily on new thinking about Bitcoin's circulating supply. So what happens when we factor in the tariffs and all the other elements, the macroeconomic perspective? You do the math. That being said, ARK Invest does point out to more investors starting to view Bitcoin as digital gold, and that this is the now second biggest driver of the future valuation, also pointing that Bitcoin is now being viewed as a potential safe haven asset in many emerging markets where there are concerns about currency devaluation as well as hyperinflation, which will lead to hyper-Bitcoinization. Send it. So as far as tariffs going into effect, keep your eye on those two factors because it could dramatically impact the Bitcoin future valuation. After all, ARK's Invest base scenario, Bitcoin only hits 1.2 million. And in a bear scenario, Bitcoin is still going to rise to 500,000 per coin. But there you have it. What are your thoughts surrounding her 2.4 million bull scenario by the year 2030 base case? Bear scenario, 500,000. Let me know your thinking, and I'll read your comments out loud. Again, welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream.